Hello and welcome to this week's Deep Dive with myself, Sian Horn, and the fabulous
Pamela Walsh.
I was like, is she there? Is she there, Pamela? Pamela, how has your week gone? What's your week been like this week?
It's been better than last week. I was like, no meetings. I'm not meeting anybody in person. And so I've gotten a good bit of work done now. I've had that time to be a hermit again this week, which has been absolutely fabulous. Not too bad. So I've been actively trying to not talk to too many people. But we sent out a big proposal for a new project this week. So very excited with that. Been working with in Enterprise Ireland funding guidelines. So, trying to get a lot of funding for this large project as well with this client. So, and I think it's going to go through. Enterprise Ireland have some amazing funding structures. They're really, really good.
Oh, and look, local Leos, Enterprise Ireland, they are fantastic. Now, I do find the process a little bit tiresome, but that's why people employ you.
The application forms are I was had to set a timer to be able to read through it because my brain just could not focus on just the bullshit in those application forms and the buzzwords you have to put in. Because they just skim down through it, so they're just looking for certain words, and if you hit enough, you probably get the funding. It's
absolutely mad. That's why ChatGPT comes in, lady. That's why find those words. What was my week like? I don't really know. What did I do this week? Was it a bank holiday week? No, that was last week.
No, last week.
I don't know. I can't think of anything that's been a disaster this week, which is always good. But busy with the club, the board and the committee, just trying to finalise how that will look this year. I suppose from my own stuff, there's lots going on that I can't tell you about till March, actually. But we're doing a lot of collaborations. So between myself and the club, I think there'll be some really exciting stuff coming in the future. But it's hard, I'm trying to separate my personal brand from the club because now as a social enterprise and a non-for-profit, it's really important that I earn an income. Otherwise, the club can't happen because I can't give it any of my time. But it's really difficult because sometimes people leverage the club off Sian Horn. I think I said to you, actually, I was asked to speak at a charity do, and I always try and do sort of one charity gig maybe a month or every other month. I think it's important to give back. But this one came in and it's like on the most important day of the year for me where I get a lot of gigs. So I said, look, is it a paying thing? I'll give 50% back. And they're like, no, but I'm sure you understand running a non-for-profit, blah, blah. And I was like, I do, but I don't run the non-for-profit. It is run by a board and a committee. I am the founder of that non-for-profit. And so I just can't keep leveraging of that, people leveraging me off the club, because otherwise I'll have another year of turning people away from my own business. And this year I can't do that. This is my year. I got to think about myself a little bit more, which is really difficult as a woman. But I'm going to do it. Oh, I did. You know what I did do though? I recorded a different podcast with Mark Crossall, the business and marketing podcast. Mark Crossall, who the hell is Mark Crossall? That's not his name. That's crazy. Mark from 3B1.
3B1, yeah, I was thinking that.
So, I recorded his podcast. And, it was really nice, actually, to record, to be the guest on a podcast. And just talk about myself, which is kind of weird. But just talking about business rather than, like, your personal journey and sort of all that more woo-woo stuff.
Yeah. I know we kind of go in and out of that ourselves here as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So I thoroughly enjoyed recording that actually, and that I'll let you know when that'll be out in a few weeks. But and then my highlight of the week, I suppose, is the messages that we get every Tuesday when we put this out. Every week, I'm getting such nice messages. I'm really enjoying that. It's great.
Yeah, we had one actually, was it this week as well? One of the girls, she actually just joined the club, so she was on our call last night. She was saying, it was about, I don't even remember last week anymore, whatever her podcast last week was about. She was like, oh my God, this is exactly what I needed to hear right now. So she went off and had a listen. and I was able to help her then. So it was good.
Amazing. Who is that?
Nicola.
Oh,
Damien.
Damien. Yeah, I always get frightened. I'm sure we can all go back to the beginning of COVID when we didn't know Zoom so well and a few little mishaps happened. Luckily, never on one of my calls, actually, but I was present on a couple of calls where we had some very interesting porn sites coming up. So I always panic when I see someone, I let them in and then I go, please tell me who you are quickly. Otherwise, I take them off the call as quick as I can. But I think those fun days are over.
Yeah, I think they've kind of like they're all early bugs though in those products until they were fully tested. That's why now you have the mute button. The host has a full mute button, so it's fine. Before we jump into this law, this is a big law again this week.
Yes.
The law, I'll call it out. Shoot your psychological moonshots first. Psychological moonshots allow brands to create huge perceived value with tiny, often free, superficial changes. They are the first place entrepreneurs, marketers, and creatives should look in their attempts to create the illusion of value. Do not wage a war in reality. Invest in shaping perceptions. Our truth is not what we see. Our truth is the story we choose to believe.
Couldn't agree more, because
yes,
everything is about perception, and it's so important in business. And actually, it's funny, one of the examples he gave whilst I was listening to it, I was like, oh my God, this is so. When I used to run David Lloyd in Dublin, 8,000 members in a gym, and I always used to say, our perception was, as an operator, that's what I really worked on. So for instance, someone might come and if a cleaner was off for a day and we had to all jump in and help to clean, we'd always get complaints. If the cleaner was in situ in the change room at all times, even if they were the worst cleaner in the world, we wouldn't get a complaint, because people would see that they were there, they were working, and if something wasn't quite right, they would know that person was going to get to it. Whereas if they couldn't find them straight away, the perception was that the place wasn't clean. So I completely get this law, and perception is so, so important, and that journey and the process for people. But what you see is what you believe.
It is. It's very, we would always, when we're kind of leaning out processes and improving business structures, it's what I've found in businesses is it's that customer perception gets a bit lost. You need a feedback loop from your customers to understand what they perceive as valuable. Because if you are not your customer, then you don't really know what they think, and you really need to get into that psychological mindset of that person. It's really, really important, because I think it's that feedback loop that will give you, because you might think something is valuable from like the technical back end of your business, but the customers might not think that.
Do you know where I think a mistake can be made here, though, sometimes? Because I always say, I completely agree with you there, Pam, and it is you only know what you know. So sometimes you presume everybody knows what you're talking about because you've done it for so much. However, I do find sometimes, so for instance, I might visit, say I visit a fast food restaurant. That's not me, by the way. I don't like fast food restaurants. Say I visit McDonald's, for instance. I never go to McDonald's. Then after I visit McDonald's, they want to know about my experience. They send me a survey. I go, oh, it was all right. It was all right. It was all right. It was all right. But at the beginning of that survey, they haven't asked who I am, or do I shop in there regularly? Am I actually their customer that's giving them that feedback? So I think it's really good, to get that feedback, but don't forget to ask the important questions. Is it your customer that you're actually speaking to? Because actually, for me, it's just like, as I say, the McDonald's survey, I'm never going to eat in McDonald's on a regular basis. I'm not their customer. So really, do they want my opinion? I'd be lucky to go there once a year or every couple of years.
Yeah, no, exactly. But see, those feedback surveys, and it is hard to get them filled out. And a lot of customers won't actually be very honest, especially if it's a small business, because they've known you, especially service-based, because they've actually dealt with you. It's not a product. Getting real feedback from customers is very difficult. Anonymous feedback can be easier to get, because sometimes, but then even myself, I'm like, it was me. I'm not going to tell you the truth. But I do think it's that perceived value, that it doesn't have to be the biggest, realest, most expensive thing in the world. It's those little subtle differences that can make such a change. But they did, like, he went into big detail in the chapter about Uber Labs. So Uber built out, obviously Uber is one of the biggest taxi companies in the world, but they did so much research on behavior and psychology, everything around their business. And they came up with basically there's 5 psychological principles that impact customer satisfaction and perception of experience. And you can see this across nearly every business and every industry in the world. So the 5 of them are the peak end rule. So basically, their customers will only ever remember the end of the experience with you, and the peak, be it the peak or the pit of the experience with you, the best or the worst, whichever one kind of shines brightest, and the end of the experience.
So a good example of that are
website checkouts, I think.
Yeah.
Packaging, when you receive the goods, delivery times, that's all that end perception.
Going through the airport, and you put your suitcase through. The person helping you put your suitcase in, going through, is always really chatty, and the person at the other end is never chatty, and that's where it says smiley face or non-smiley face. And I'm always like, if they were just nice to me there, I'd just hit the green button, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And it is that thing of, you go to a restaurant and when you get up, someone opens the server opens the door for you, says thank you and good night. Those little tiny things make such a massive difference.
But for me, being celiac, when people come out and are very, accommodating to my stupid bloody needs, but you know what I mean? And they spend the time to sit with me and go, okay, this is what you can and can't have. Was everything okay? I always feel, because I was literally in Sage and Middleton over the weekend. Oh my God. And they didn't have lots of gluten-free options on the menu, but they were so kind. There was the food that they did bring out was absolutely amazing. So I was like, 100%, I will go back there again, tell everybody about it, even though they had very limited options for me. What I got was just the
beginning of your process. So what do they do at the end that so that's the beginning. So they've come out and looked after you and made sure that you've got a meal. I find it so bizarre that you have a problem being a celiac. Like, I ate gluten-free for 8 years ago, and I never had a problem. There's more celiacs in Ireland than there is anywhere else in the country. You need to speak to Clodagh, HR Solutions. She's a celiac as well. She lives in Middleton, and she will tell you everywhere to go. But I never had any problems. What do you want to eat? Do you want to eat pizza all the time? What's going on?
No, I'm like, give me a slab of meat and a potato. But everything was cooked on the grill, mixed. Everything is fried in the same fryers. And that's where, I was in another restaurant, I'm not going to name them on this.
Oh, in this day and age.
Another restaurant in town a couple of weeks back, and their whole menu was like, this is celiac friendly. And when I questioned them about it, everything was cooked in the same fryers. So I can't eat that. If you're gluten free, you can't.
Yeah, that's the difference between celiac friendly and celiac. But as someone that worked in kitchens for over a decade, yes, I might cook my meat on the same griddle, but I also have fresh, clean pans that I can cook the meat in. Yeah. I don't understand that. The one thing I did find when I, and the reason that I was eating celiac was completely fertility reasons, but I did not waver at all. And was when I'd go and I'd say, can you see if the sauce, please? Can you check the sauce? And any good chef wouldn't be using a pre-mixed sauce anyway. So then that used to gauge my good or bad restaurant. But I'd like to know what they did at the end, because we're talking about the end process. So I think what they did was brilliant at the beginning, but then did they come out and tell you that, for me, what I'd want to see now is when you were leaving, someone saying, do you know what, next time you come in, we'll have a menu ready for you.
Yeah, no, that's true.
Because it takes
I know, and it's thinking about that because it's leaving that lingering effect. And I feel like from a product perspective, the checkout, the website user friendliness, and the packaging is like I actually ordered loads of them. All my girls around me got headplan diaries this year for Christmas. And I know they were on Dragon's Den there recently. Brilliant that they're getting that investment.
That's a shame. I could have given you mine. I've had it sitting in my cupboard for 5 years.
But their packaging is just, it's amazing. It's so aesthetic, really, really well put together. And you know, when you like, I used to always order my hair products from, and they're still a salon, but they're gone from the online market now because they just couldn't compete against the likes of Millie's and that. But it's always because there were 2 local girls in Cork, used to always order my shampoos, conditioners, all my hair stuff online from them. And every time a box came in the door, my husband's like, "What's that?" Because they just put like 2 or 3 little lollipops into it. So cheap, nothing. Other than throwing 1 or 2 sweets into every box. My husband's like, "Oh, what did you get a new shampoo?" Because he would steal my lollipops out of it. But it's always, you just feel like you're getting that little bit more, something small and simple like that. I used to be like, oh, I feel valued as a customer, even with just 2 lollipops, just something extra.
Absolutely. No, I love all that. I think it's so important.
I'll go through the others.
Yeah.
There was 5 of those rules. So I'll just list them out because we're kind of getting into each rule. Idleness aversion. So it's basically our need to be busy and not be just waiting a long time between calls and meetings and waiting for your products to arrive. Operational transparency is what Uber did for this was they give the full breakdown of the pricing, why it's costing this, what this is, what the rates are, so you're not thinking you're being kind of swindled at the end of the drive. Uncertainty, anxiety, basically not knowing like, where's my car, where's my pizza, what's going on, where's the project at, when are we going to end, where's my product. And then there's one called the goal gradient effect. So that's basically what they found was in coffee shops, you get that little stamp every time you buy a coffee, and when you fill it up, you get a free coffee. What they found was when people get close to filling up that coffee stamp, they buy more coffees. So the closer you are to your goal, the harder you work towards it. For salons to get your nails done and things like that, people would be more likely to come back faster if they think they're close to getting something free or over and above.
Oh yeah, no, and look, we all do it. I think we spoke about this before. I can't believe that the loyalty cards have taken so long to cotton on to the power of that. Because up till about 6 months ago, you used your loyalty card when you checked out. But now it's, if you go to, say, for instance, to Tesco's without, or Super Value without your loyalty card, your shopping could cost you 20% more than it normally does. I can't believe it took them so long to cotton on to that, but they did, and it makes complete sense because you are like I've come home. Well, now mine's on my phone, but in the past I have come home to go and get my loyalty card because I want those discounts, or I want to get to €100 in my savings that I can use that to go home on a boat. And yeah, I completely get it. It's like saving, isn't it? It's exciting. I always use my
yourself. If you're at the till and you're like €10 off €100 to be able to use your voucher, like you run back and get something else.
I stopped shopping in Dan's because of that, because I always got in the queue of everybody going, "I'm so sorry, hang on a second. I'm so sorry, hang on a second." I'm like, has no one got a calculator on their iPhone? Can they not calculate what their shopping is before they get to the bloody till? It's like people that take oh my God, every day, people running in and out of the shop to get shit because they have to make it up to £50. I think
so.
It's
you
hilarious.
Calculate as you're going around how much it's going to be.
Do I? Yeah. I'm in a budget girl.
Are you serious?
I'm in a budget. In
my God.
You have a gun, so I can see what I'm spending. Oh my God, yeah, because the food is ridiculously expensive.
Oh, it's so. You want to see gluten-free food?
I have my budget, and that's what I spend.
See, I'm busy trying to wrestle my toddler out of the trolley because she sits in it and opens everything and eats everything. So I'm snacking her up while we go around. But even before I had her, I never, like, it's news to me when I get to the till. It's like, oh, please don't be too bad. And it's horrendous these days. If my husband's listening to this now, he'd be like, that's why they're so expensive, because you don't know what you're buying.
He was showing you where the calculator is on your phone. But no, I do it. I'm like, literally, if I'm popping in for something quick, I know what I'm spending. But if I'm doing a shop, I do calculate it, because I do budget myself, because my holidays are very important to me, as you know, Pamela. And if I overspend on food, you know, and sometimes, look, I mean, it's that simple. You know, I'm a good cook. So if I get to the end and I'm €7 over, I'm thinking of what I can make instead, and I put the chicken back. I might buy some liver.
Oh, you're really good for doing. Like, I'm shocking when I'm just like, well, we need the food, we'll just buy the food. I'm going to really try and actively dissuade my husband from listening to this episode, because I'll be murdered.
You know what I think it is? There's been 2 times in my life where I've had no money.
Yeah, I know, I've been there. And,
you know, and I'm talking like, do we buy a bottle of wine or 2 bags of 49p courgettes? So I think not having the cars, we spoke about this briefly, I think. I didn't have a car for the last 12 months. I'm back in the car now. And one of the best habits I'd come to was no food waste. And that happened because of no car, because I had to be really much smarter about what was in the fridge, because I couldn't just pop out and get that or this. And I'm sticking to it. So budgeting on food is really important to me for 2 reasons. One, I want my holidays, so I have a budget of what I can spend. And 2, no food waste, because food waste is the worst. Like, if that's one thing you could change to help the planet, it would start there.
No, and we do, like, I typically would have like leftovers for lunch the following day, and we are typically quite good with that. It's just with a toddler, the amount of times they will take a bite out of their food and just not eat their dinner, it's like
do you have a meal planner? Like, so I have, it's actually a family one, so it's not for people like me, but I have this great planner, and I have by the side of my cooker, it's, you know, that you put a stand to put your cookbook in, but my planner is there. And so before I go shopping, I write in what meals we're having, and then on the left side you have a shopping list.
On a Saturday, like on a Sunday, I plan out my week, my kind of work week, my calendar, all that. And I do plan out dinners that we're going to have every day as well. Because I'd buy meat in batches, and I'd freeze it in portions. So I used to take it out the night before, so I know what we're having the following day. But yeah, it's more like like our biggest food waste is the food on my toddler's plate, because some days she could eat 2 plates of dinner, and other days she'd eat 3 bites, and then that's it. It's just, or she might just decide suddenly she won't eat green stuff. You know, the way you just go through phases like that. But like, we would be quite good at that, and try to be as good as we can. If I'm being conscious about it, I am good.
Yeah, no, I like those planners. I can't remember where I got it from, actually. I think the Head Plan do one, actually. And it's like all your meals one side and your shopping list the other side. But that was a great learning curve for me last year. And it is one thing, we've got completely off the topic.
Totally. I'm looking at this going, nothing to do with perceived value.
Talk about shopping.
Perceived value in that is you will run out of the till and go and up the value you're spending just to get that discount, because you feel like you're getting more value for it. I would think as well, just even, you know, that like restaurant that you were in Amsterdam, and you were like, it's 10 to 10, and there was a queue down the road. When you see queues like that outside the place, you're like, oh my God, this must be amazing if people are queuing.
Well, there's a chipper in Douglas. I can't remember what it's. Yeah, I don't get it. I honestly.
I used to queue there. Pre-celiac diagnosis, I queued.
At like 4:30, it opens at 5. At 4:30, the queue starts. I swear he pays people.
It's just a small little place, like, that's it.
Yeah, but that Chang in Amsterdam was very similar. However, what I will tell you is, if you don't go there when you go to Amsterdam, it was the best bloody sandwich I've ever eaten in my life. I wanted to go back the following day. My husband wouldn't let me. It was unbelievable. I I want to open a chan in Cork because it's such an amazing business concept. I thought it was just a delight. So yeah, no, absolutely perception, that need and want. But also remember smoke and mirrors. So quite often you'll see people on Instagram saying, we're sold out now, blah, blah, blah. And you're like, yeah, not.
But those sold, because it's literally had that as well. The fourth arc and the edit rolls, jumpers and fleeces and all that.
Yeah.
Every time you go onto the website, it's like sold out. And now I'm kind of getting to the point that I'm like, I give up now at this stage. Having that sold outness does create that draw. Oh my God, everybody has it. I want it. It's sold out. It's so hard to get, to a point, because I'm getting to the point now that I'm like, you know what? I give up.
Yeah. Yeah, I had actually, I won't talk about it. It's boring. Go on, carry on. Next.
I will give one more example. A really good friend of mine, she runs a design studio, and what she does, and I actually really love it. So she designs logos for people. And when she finishes off the project and she sends them off on their merry way, she will always, within a couple of months period of time, send them either like a mug or some little object with their logo stamped on it, printed onto it. Like, I know she did work for like a photographer recently, and she got a gorgeous like wax seal made with their logo embroidered is the wrong word, but into it. It's such a nice idea, and it's a real lovely, this is your logo in the wild, She always does that for people, and it's a lovely kind of like last thought of a person, that the next time you hear somebody looking for a logo, you're going to be like, oh my God, this is the person I used, got a gorgeous mug, got a gorgeous this, that, or the other. Small, it doesn't have to be expensive, again, because like we're working on small budgets here, so you have to get really creative. But it's just leaving that lovely afterthought in somebody's mind.
Well, I had very simple thank you cards with my branding on done when I first started in business. I probably didn't send any last year, but when I first started, I used to send them if anybody sent me anything. And it does make a difference, and people do remember. It's a nice feeling to receive a card or a bit of post, because it's so unusual. But that perception of time as well, I think one of the things that he mentioned was, it's much nicer when you see flight delayed 50 minutes than just flight delayed, because you get frustrated. And it made me think of, actually, when I used to work in bars, and it's something that I use now in networking, when you're in a very big room. So I truly believe that not everybody can work behind a bar. I think it is a real, there's a technique to it, and you're either good at it or you're just shocking and you should never do it. And I always used to teach serve, speak, see. So to put that into context, you're serving one person, you're speaking to the next person that you're going to serve, and then you are seeing the third person and letting them know the order of which it is. And that takes down people's wait time by, like, it feels like an eternity. I do that in networking now. So if I'm talking to you, but I can see someone wants my attention, I will let them, I will say, I'd be 5 minutes, I'll be with you. And then the next person, I'd give them a nod and say, and I will just show them, I'm just going to speak to her next and I will be with you. It shortens.
You're acknowledging, you see them, like, Yeah,
and it's really important to acknowledge that. And that makes a massive difference to how you feel.
And that's actually really good advice with like active leads as well, from a business perspective. If you're one person, because you have only so much capacity, you can't talk to everybody at the same time, just like having that acknowledgement of, and I find that especially in projects, it's that clear communication, letting people know that they're, or even like, there's a delay, I'm really sorry, I'm working on this actively. We're hoping it won't be more than 3 days. I think once, because I've worked with so many people now on things, that there's just radio silence, and you're like, the deadline is today and we haven't heard from you in 5 days. And I would then be just stalking them until I get an answer. But that, to me, it's like, you can't do that stuff. You need, like, if there's a problem or a delay or you're having issues, communicate them immediately. and let everybody know that you need a little bit of buffer with this deadline or whatever. I think people will appreciate just being in the loop and knowing what's happening rather than not knowing and not hearing from a person. Because sometimes we lock down and go into like damage control and try to fix everything at the same time. Whereas I'm quite the opposite from managing projects for a long time now. I will, if there is a big problem, immediately call all the stakeholders in and say, we're having a problem, we're working on it, this is what we're doing. When I have another update, I will let you know. And if I don't have an update within 2 days, I'll still send an email saying, still working on it, blah, blah, blah. But I will keep letting people know where we are in the process rather than just trying to like close the door, not talk to anybody. It's just, I'm getting it so much, people just not communicating back and forth. It's so difficult to work with.
Yeah. And I completely get it. And sometimes people are burnt out and they stick their head into the sand and they just don't want to deal with things. But even, do you know what I always say? And I've been there and I've emailed and said, I'm so sorry, but I can't get this done this week. It's going to be two things on that, actually. The amount of people that I work with that don't say, oh, I've been trying to get a hold of this person and they haven't come back to me, blah, 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 blah. But they haven't given them a deadline in the email.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's something to learn. I always try and close things off. I actually emailed a client yesterday and I was like, look, I have to move on. So I just want to make sure that you don't want me to proceed with this, but can you let me know by 10 a.m. tomorrow morning and then I can move on. There's nothing wrong with doing that. And if deadlines are becoming a bit heavy for you, then do let people know, because it's all about communication, isn't it?
It is, because I'm the same, like we're rescoping a project now at the moment, and like the scope of this has changed even though we're started a project. So I've let everybody know, I'm like, I am meeting the project team on Monday. We have to make a final decision by Friday afternoon and we cannot change it after that. And that is it. And everybody knows, everybody's informed, and because we've already re-agreed something now, and I'm like, okay, but you have 2 days because I'm going to reconfirm this on Friday and it cannot change after that, because that's what we're planning ahead with. And like I always do that in my emails. I always tell people when I need it, or if it's not something that's needed immediately because they might be under pressure and I don't want them working on this. I'll always say, I don't need this until next week, or I need this by Tuesday. I'm very conscious of that.
I think it's so important. Fabulous. Anything else?
I think, what else was I saying in this? I do think coming into all of this, like perceived value is brand. Brand in itself, having a good, strong brand is the perceived value. Like, think about like a hoodie from Nike versus a hoodie from Dunn's. What's the difference? It's the Nike take on it. That's perceived value in itself, and it has a good brand behind it that has built that over time. If you look at the kind of the products side by side, now maybe, I don't know, some Nike stuff isn't great quality anymore, but it's the branding on the product. It's the fourth arc sign. It's the edit row. It's the, you know what I mean? It's those brands versus just another fleece somewhere else. That's why they're all sold out, is because they have that brand behind it. Brand is so important in service-based, in product-based business. That is the perceived value that will give you an arm and a leg over everybody else.
But I think we need to remember as well, with brands like that is their business strategy. That's how they run their business. In 2018, I was going to mention it earlier, I'll mention it now. So we were going to do B-Bell. That was our strategy: low ticket, like low amount of stock, and launch 4 times a year. Mm-hmm. Big shops, like, these big multinationals, they do over 1,000 launches a year. So all the fourth arc and that are doing are just a small amount of launches. So yes, they are sold out, but that's actually the strategy of the business.
Oh yeah, 100% is, because it gives that perceived value then of like, oh, it's flying off the shelves.
Yeah, but only to people that don't understand business strategy. If you understand business strategy, you'll understand that that's how it's supposed to be. Does that make sense? Rather than, oh my God, I can't get it because it's always sold out.
No, I get that, because I literally had this conversation with my husband the other day. I can't remember what it is we saw, but I was like, for me, because I'm so in business strategy and helping people plan that stuff, that glass ceiling, that lovely glass kind of just not knowing is gone for me. I see it in everything. I'm very skeptical of everything. I don't believe much anymore because I know the planning that has gone on behind all of this stuff. It's trying to get you to feel a certain way. And I see it. I always see it in businesses. I see anything. If an emotion is stirred up in me, I'm like, they wanted me to feel this. And then I always look at, okay, what have they done to make me feel this way? And then it's gone again and I never feel that anymore. I do. I see it in everything now. I'm always like, everything is just strategized, especially big businesses like that.
Yeah, but it's not a negative thing. Good strategy looks after the customer. But I'm just saying for people that are new in business and don't understand that kind of strategy, just know that it's not, it's not wrong. I actually like it. I think because it gives people something to look at. I like launches. Actually, there's a great small business that does it very well, Sleepy Chicken. She does great. Yeah, she does it very well. So yeah, well worth looking at that. But I love it. Anything else?
I think that is all for me anyway.
Yeah, I think it's important. I love what he writes at the end. Our truth is not what we see. Our truth is in the story we choose to believe. Mm-hmm. And I think that's a really good way to finish.
Till next week. What do we have next week? Friction can create value.
Can't wait for that one. All right. Thanks, guys.
Yeah. Bye.
The music used for the opening and closing of this podcast is titled Pleasant Porridge by Kevin MacLeod. IncompeteTech.com. Licensed under Creative Commons by Attribution 4.0. www.creativecommons.org/licenses/by/4.0.